respectful. Please keep the talking to a minimum. And once your 5 minutes are up, please finish your statement and allow the next person to come up. And we'll let John McGilchrist.
Good evening all. John McGilchrist, Teaneck. In 1965, I was drafted into the United States Army. Did basic training, Fort Gordon, Georgia, and AIT at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Did OCS at Fort Belvoir, Virginia, and was commissioned as Second Lieutenant in the Corps of Engineers. I was assigned to the 815th Engineer Battalion, which deployed to a place called South Vietnam in those days. In Vietnam, I served as a platoon leader and later as a company commander when I was promoted to First Lieutenant. I was the first officer in the battalion to come under fire, and the only officer in the battalion at that time to receive the Bronze Star while still in country. After Vietnam, I was assigned to the Engineer School of Fort Belvoir as an instructor and was promoted to captain. Got married, we had a big military wedding, and I left the service to pursue a career in corporate America. Left with 4 years of active duty. The company I worked for moved to New Jersey. It wasn't long before I got talked into joining the New Jersey National Guard. I spent 19 years in the New Jersey National Guard and retired as a lieutenant colonel. These were good years. That gave me a total of 23 years of military service. In 2009, I retired from corporate America and became involved with Teaneck's Patriotic Observance Advisory Board. Yes, I said Patriotic Observance Advisory Board, not Political Observance Advisory Board. The advisory boards at Teaneck do just that. They advise. Like the chairmen and the Joint Chief of the United States military, they advise the Commander-in-Chief. They do not make the final decision. Now, I don't always agree with the final decision. Does that mean I run away and retire? No, I carry on. I continue to try to make Teaneck's patriotic observances better and bring them to a whole new level. At the last council meeting, much was said about Memorial Day, guest speakers, and patriotism versus politics. But I have a question. How many people that spoke at that meeting, how many people in this room attended last year's Memorial Day observance? Or the year before that, or the year before that for that matter? You see, patriotism requires action. Politics requires words. We have the right to disagree. That doesn't make us bad patriots. The people we honor on Memorial Day gave their lives so we could be political or do anything else we want to do. They gave their lives. They gave their lives for that flag and all of you sitting here. I ask everyone in Teaneck to come out this year and give 1 hour of your time, right out there on the municipal green, 1 hour of your time to honor those who died. Now, is that too much to ask?
A little slow getting on. Good evening, Vincent Napolitano. Before I make my statement for the reason I'm here, we have this huge budget. Do you think we could spend some money and get the fan fixed? It's kind of annoying, that click, click, click. That's been going on for months.
Every meeting.
I haven't attended a council meeting in a while. Not since, I think, the beginning of January. see nothing really changes with the majority block and our manager. I'm here to make a statement. The disrespect that was shown to a veteran who served in Iraq, it's disgusting. That's the word I have to use. Not only did the manager and the majority bloc put shame on this council, they put shame on Teaneck as a town. I am also a member of the Patriotic Observance Committee. I've been on that board for 4 years, and it's my honor to be on that board. But with what took place in reference to Jason Castle is a disgrace. And my intention is to resign from the board after the Memorial Day services, because I respect the vets. One last thing, I hope the manager and the majority bloc read very carefully the 2 editorials in the Bergen Record. I think it sums it up better than I can or anyone else. Country before Teaneck. Snubbing veteran over politics is petty. Another editorial. Alfred Dobbin. Memorial Day. A Teaneck Council and Smash Pumpkins. And it goes on explaining. And one of the members of the council, I hope everyone read, but especially one member read this very carefully. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Hi, Paula Woodrow-Van Teaneck. I'm a Marine mom. My son served twice in Iraq. I'm the daughter of a World War II Army veteran. And I'm outraged that the majority of this council, not including Henry Pruitt and Lizette Parker, the majority of this council uninvited a Marine Corps veteran, Jason Castle, to speak at the Memorial Day observance. Demanding a litmus test for a speaker sounds like the return of the era of the Joe McCarthy era and the House Un-American Activities Committee. It's a disgrace. That the council majority and the manager showed such disrespect for John McGilchrist, the chairman of the Patriotic Observance Committee. Never before has this hardworking committee been asked to disinvite a speaker. In the early 1970s, during the Vietnam War, the Memorial Day parade in Teaneck was canceled to prevent an anti-war contingent from marching.
I remember that.
Is Teaneck marching backwards? It sure feels like it. That Castle or other Teaneck residents are able to voice opinions is the highlight of our democracy. In fact, it's a sad commentary when members of the public don't participate during the times for public comment at the meetings. It is not the purview of this council or the manager to rule out a speaker for Memorial Day based on whether he or she agrees with them on township matters. Memorial Day is about honoring those who have sacrificed in wars. How shameful it was to put petty politics above honoring our veterans. And I ask each one of you to consider tonight rescinding that decision, turning it around. Jason Castle is here. He's here. He's right here. You can re-invite him. He's right here. We ask you
Long line.
Anyone else want to speak?
Jeff O'Crupp, I'm a Teaneck resident, and I'm here on behalf of the Teaneck Democratic Municipal Committee, also known as the TDMC, of which I am a committeeman. At a regular council meeting last night, the committee decided that it could not remain neutral in the matter of the rescission of an invitation extended by the Patriotic Observance Advisory Board to an Iraq War veteran and Teaneck resident to speak at our upcoming Memorial Day event. We do not take this decision lightly. For some time, it has been the TDMC policy to stay out of the affairs of the Teaneck Council as a matter of respect for our town's nonpartisan form of government. But this issue goes far beyond partisanship, be it traditional party politics or local factionalism. Indeed, it involves one of the most fundamental, nonpartisan rights we all share as Americans, the right to freely speak one's mind and to freely associate with like-minded people without suffering governmental sanction. It has been stated here from the dais that Mr. Castle, whose willingness to risk his life for his country makes him eminently qualified to speak on Memorial Day, was disinvited because of statements he made during council meetings' public comment periods. Periods like this, where people speak their minds. It has been stated elsewhere that his association with local advocacy groups also figured into this misguided action. Clearly, it was a major mistake and at odds with the fundamental values of free speech. It has also brought considerable embarrassment to our town nationwide. Whether or not it originated with the manager, the council now owns this mistake, and only the council can fix it. So please, fix this mistake. By all that we value most dearly as Americans, fix this mistake. Reinstate your advisory board's invitation. Restore the non-political, non-partisan character of our Memorial Day observance, and reaffirm a fundamental right that Americans such as Mr. Castle have fought for and that many others have died for. Thank you.
Teaneck resident. A year ago, a candidate for council, now sitting up here, told the suburbanite, quote, "I am running for town council because it is now time to do more with less. Simply put, the days of tax and spend have ended." Tax and spend is alive and kicking hard here in Teaneck. It astounds me to hear that the old police building and Boutique Park soccer fields will cost nothing. If we have access to this kind of imaginary money, let's build 10 soccer fields.
Amen.
Let's build a $20 million old police building. I know that I'm not the only person who has had differences with this township council. Apparently there are others. For example, I believe that transparency will help this council make better decisions. This council has taken actions like the 4-day work week that were almost entirely done outside of the public eye. I believe that government should analyze every penny of spending, trying to find the optimal level of low taxes and quality services. This council just passed a budget that will raise taxes by 6% without cutting a single item from the budget. I firmly believe that diversity will help a township council make better decisions. And far too often, this township council has made decisions as a block that are worse than any one of them could possibly have made on their own. Our township manager exceeded his authority in determining that Jason Castle's voice as a resident and as a veteran will not be heard on Memorial Day. We've heard in justification that the role of government is to choose those who will give life to the visions that got them elected. This argument is best rebutted by remarks made at a memorial service to war dead 150 years ago in Gettysburg, when Abraham Lincoln said that we could never properly honor those who gave their lives in the battle for liberty. Instead, quote, "It is for us, the living, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work, that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." Lincoln's vision of government of the people is fading in our township. If we fall on the wrong side of the Lincoln-Teaneck debate, we have truly failed to understand what Memorial Day means. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people must prevail here in Teaneck.
Robert Robinson, resident of Teaneck. I come tonight because of what happened, what I heard had happened with a fellow Marine, Mr. Castle. As a Marine, you're always a Marine. He served in our U.S. Marine Corps. He served diligently, and there was no reason to cancel, to ask him not to come. What has happened is really the crap comes down from the top. And I'm not talking about just Teaneck. Look at Congress. Look at the great minds that we got in Congress right now, in the House of Representatives especially, and the Senate, which fell into pass the gun law just last week. Look at all that's happening in D.C. We can't afford that in Teaneck. We don't need that in Teaneck. I know that it's supposed to be an independent, non-partisan, but when you uninvite a Marine Corps veteran because of any reason to speak on Memorial Day, he don't have time to sit up there and stand for 2 hours. It's only going to be a short speech. It's no reason. It's no reason. My personal belief is that I think every red-blooded American should go through the Marine Corps boot camp. We would have a better country if they went through the Marine Corps boot camp. $70,000 for those 12 to 16 weeks, and let them do the hard time. We will have a better U.S. government. We will have a better Congress and Senate if they went down there and served their time. There should be some reasons that America has. And I think Teaneck, I think the council slapped a Marine Corps veteran in the face. It's a Marine Corps emblem on one side and the U.S. Army on the other. And it represents both, because when you go to war, you may not agree with the war, but you go because you're obligated to go. It's not about your policy, politics, or what you personally believe. You have a commander-in-chief, and you go to do what he tells you. Because that war in Iraq is one that we shouldn't have went in. But we lost over 3,000 veterans over there. Over 5,000 veterans over there.
Get the numbers back, you know.
We need to take and do something. That don't count those that are coming back. That's damaged mentally and physically. Think about it. Think about it. It's not about just Mr. Castle. It's about a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps, of these United States. That's what it's boiled down to. And how are you going to carry yourself? Serve. He served. He deserved an opportunity to speak.
I served in Vietnam 10 months in the United States Army. This story is in the Marine Corps Times. It comes across as the United States Marine Corps and also the other military publications. But this town dissed the military veterans. That's how it comes across. Now, you may not care about the impact, the message that's sending to young veterans who already feel disenfranchised to begin with. The wait to get into the VA is more than 2 years. Before they can get into the VA, they don't have a job in so many cases, if they have a place to live. Because 250,000 veterans are homeless every night. To have one veteran of this war to be asked to speak on Memorial Day is almost unusual because the veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan are not getting much attention. I worked with veterans from those 2 wars in writing and arts programs. So I hear a great deal about how they feel about. Nobody really wants to have them part of America that they came back to. And when someone comes to a town council meeting and participates, I was a municipal reporter in this state for nearly 25 years. The few times the veteran got up and spoke in a town council meeting in North Jersey, I could count on one hand. Why is that? Why is it that veterans don't feel as though after fighting in a war, they can't participate in municipal affairs? You know why? Because it stinks more than being in combat. Thank you.
My name is Walt Nygaard. I'm a Teaneck resident of the last 33 years. I'm a former United States Marine. I served in Vietnam. Before I moved to Teaneck, and when I was a young boy, I grew up on Army posts. My father was a soldier for 26 years. He was a combat infantryman in World War II. My oldest son is at Camp Phoenix in Kabul, Afghanistan right now on his 3rd combat deployment. In 2003, I, along with other friends of mine in the Veterans Movement and the Veterans Peace Movement, Military Families Speak Out, and Jersey Peace in Action, came before this council to ask Teaneck to show a little guts and stand up and declare itself against the illegal invasion of Iraq. At that time, we were informed that that kind of politics was not local. And the response that we were met with was pretty much disdain and indifference and just tolerating our existence for that hour that they had to listen to us. Well, in less than a month, that local group from the Teaneck Armory, the 508th MP Company, will be coming back to town. My son's one of them. God willing, they'll all get back safe. A year ago, my friend Jan and I were honored by the Teaneck Cedar Lane Society and by the New Jersey State Legislature with an award on Cedar Lane. On Memorial Day, we made speeches. We made speeches like any veteran would about what service is like, about those who were the real heroes who are buried all around this world and in our national cemeteries. That day, I met Jason Castle. He gave me this little Marine Corps emblem that I wear on my cap. He told me that he had been a squad leader, the Marine Corps Silent Drill Platoon in Washington, D.C., before going to Iraq. He told me that it made him a better NCO, that it better qualified him to take care of his Marines, to make sure they had what they needed, and to look after their lives and protect them as best he could. He was a good leader, a good Marine, and he's a good man. And you guys disinviting him to speak at this city's Memorial Day event is a disgrace. Mr. Mayor, I met you that day also. You seem like a pretty good guy. But you, pardon my language, you screwed up, falling in with this twisted, misguided decision. been involved only a couple of times in actions with this council. But there's always been this majority core, and a couple of people hit on it already, about transparency and about doing the best for Teaneck as opposed to the backroom decisions that are made, and I can't even call it leadership. You know, this year I'm mayor, next year you're mayor, and we'll pass it around, but we'll just get enough people out to vote us onto the council. Crummy system, you made a crummy decision, and Mr. Broughton, whatever honor you had accrued in your uniform days, you have surely besmirched by doing the work. Paula gave you the opportunity to stand up and call this thing all to a halt and rescind that pulled invitation to Mr. Castle. Nobody jumped up to do that, so I have a feeling that that feeling that I have gotten from the Teaneck Town Council in years past hasn't changed. And that little minority group will sit there and let us rave on and not worry about it until the next thing comes up. So thank you for letting me speak.
Teaneck, New Jersey, and first I'd like to thank you for your public service. I know the amount of work that you put in to serving Teaneck as elected representatives, and I know that you sit and you listen to us, express our views, and it can't always be easy, and I'm sure sometimes it's very difficult. But tonight I want to say that you have made a big mistake here, and it has brought a lot of disrepute onto our town. And it seemed to me that you were afraid to counter, with all due respect to Mr. Brown, to counter his very poor decision in the first instance. And you look frightened. You look frightened of him, and you look frightened of Jason. And we know he would never, ever say anything inappropriate at a Memorial Day service. And so, I'm asking you, along with everyone else who's spoken on this, to undo this to the extent that you can, and to reissue an invitation to him, and to be bigger people about this. You don't have to stick by a mistake. Once you know that it's a mistake. We did not vote for Mr. Broughton. Why does he get to call the shot on this? And Councilman Pruitt from everything that I'm saying, because she had the courage to do the right thing. So you can do the right thing here. And I'm asking you, please, be big men in this case, do the right thing, and reissue that invitation to Jason Castle. I will bow to Councilmember Paul.
I was in the Navy during the war throughout the whole Pacific, so I know a little bit about the services. I'd like just to remind you what Teaneck used to be. Teaneck used to be the most progressive town in the country, probably. Just to mention a few of the things that made it stand out. First was, Teaneck was only the first town to integrate its school system. We've done a number of other things. On a smaller scale, I was in the Little League, I was running it. We took girls in for the first time. The New York Times made a big issue of it. They sent down reporters to see if the girls really were doing it. They realized the importance it meant for the country. Now there's activity, softball for women to play. The question is,
What's happening is you're changing Teaneck, taking it away from this progressive thing to make it a town, to make it a lousy town. Time for you to change it.
Loretta Weinberg, Teaneck. First, I'd like to just make a comment. You talked about $20,000 for a bathroom in a building that's falling apart. May I point out to all of you who want to spend the money on the soccer fields that there is no bathroom in Boutique Park, other than the porta-sands. So if you want to spend $20,000, fix up the closed bathrooms there that have been closed for a number of years for all those kids that we want on that field, and all those seniors who you kind of dissed, council member Schwartz, who might walk around the cracks at Boutique Park. So how about opening up a bathroom in Boutique Park? Having said all of that, I want to follow up on what Jackie Greengrass said. She talked about the unilateral decision that was made by the township manager. I requested to find out where in the law, in our ordinances, in our town charter, among our resolutions, that allows the manager to overrule an advisory board to the Teaneck Council without a vote of the Teaneck Council. And I have it in my email here. When I sent that to the manager, he said, I respectfully decline to discuss this with you. Now, according to the manager, from what I heard and what I read, Jason Castle was uninvited for a couple of reasons. He's come here and criticized the council, and the manager doesn't like that. And then he belongs to an organization called 2020, which somehow some of you don't like, and that's your right. But if we want to talk about guilt by association, let me point out a few things. To some of you sitting right up here, 2 of you are still sitting on a political action committee that was funded by the indicted Birdsall Engineering. Talk about guilt by association. I don't think that the 2 of you who are sitting there are guilty because Birdsall was guilty. You still have their money in your political action. Another one of you had very recently had a campaign manager for one of your races who has been questioned for inappropriate contributions printed in the newspaper to the Bergen County Democratic Organization. Well, I don't even think that one of you is guilty because your very own campaign manager made an inappropriate contribution. However, that is the kind of standard you are setting in Teaneck. Now, former council member Schwartz spoke to you. In case you don't know, he'll be 101 years old in October. His wisdom, and you can't take the wisdom of the people who have come before you tonight to tell you that you, Mr. Broughton, did a very disrespectful thing. You did it without action of this council. You've been disrespectful to me by respectfully declining to even discuss it with me. So I did put it in the form of an Oprah request, and I assume I'll get an answer at some point. But the town that voluntarily integrated its schools, the town where I marched with my husband, a proud Jewish war veteran, in those Memorial Day parades. I happen to also be the sister of a Korean War veteran. And to see this going on in the town that I live in, that I work in, that I love, that I represent, hurts me. It hurts my heart,
and it hurts the hearts of all the people sitting here. You have a chance to speak up. You have a chance to put an end to what seems to be the seeds of guilt by association. It's only you can do that. And I think you're going to hear from enough of the township, if you haven't already, that those kinds of actions are not acceptable, not in this town, at this time, at this period. Mr. Nygaard talked about being honored by the Cedar Lane Management Group. Well, actually, I just received an invitation to be honored this year at the Memorial Day ceremony by the Cedar Lane Management Group. But I really failed to put that before Mr. Broughton to find out if it's acceptable. I will be at the Municipal Green to hear whichever veteran is coming to speak, because I've gone to those most years. I will also be at Smoky Joe's. Thank you. I was going to say Sloppy Joe's. I will also be at Smoky Joe's restaurant on Cedar Lane, who invited the whole township during the Memorial Day fair after the observance on the green. Invited the whole town and invited Jason Castle to give his speech. Jason Castle will accept, and I hope we'll all be there to enjoy some of the best kosher barbecue.
Jason Castle, Teaneck. Many of you have heard this before, and I'm going to repeat it for those of you who have not. I'm going to try my best to hold back my emotion. I, Jason Castle, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me, according to the regulations of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. So help me God. Second thing I want to read to you, Council, as a veteran who took this oath, to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, is the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. And to petition the government for redress of grievances. I never thought the Constitution that I swore to support and defend, the amendments from the Bill of Rights, would be something that I would not have an opportunity to live out myself. Mr. Browder, you may not like me. I don't really like you. Council, I have not been here for a full year, but I've been here long enough to understand that some of the concerns and the grievances of this town are well-founded. I have no problem standing up for my community. Hell, I stood up for all of you when I put on the uniform of these United States.
Got your back, comrade.
Yep.
So if I somehow offend you, well, I guess that's something you're going to have to get over. Because every month when I write my check to this township for my daughter's education, I do it understanding that many of you have offended me egregiously. But if I had to do it all over again, knowing what I know now, knowing that I would be prevented from honoring my fallen brothers, our fallen sons and daughters, knowing that people might hurl insults at me, but still do it all again. I know that many of you have not served, and many of you serve right now in the capacity that is to advocate for the constituency of this township. You may not right what some would consider to be a wrong. You may not feel as if anything is owed to the township that elected you. But I'll have you know that despite the fact that you uninvited me to honor not any of you, not to represent any of you as the town manager stated in the last council meeting, I'd still do it all again. I'd still serve my country on your behalf. Because I didn't serve Teaneck, I didn't serve the Democrats or the Republicans, I didn't serve anyone. I served all of you. And I'm proud to have served all of you. And I'm asking you now to serve all of us. Thank you.
Limited permission. Jason, be the last one.
I'm Alice Middleman, I'm 35-year resident of Teaneck. And I address the four of you who voted to rescind the invitation. Surely, you must realize that a terrible mistake was made. I cannot believe that you don't recognize that. And you have the opportunity right here, right now, to do probably the highest act that a human being can do, and that is to right a wrong. And to say, you made a mistake, we're sorry, and we're going to right that wrong. Jason Castle will speak on Memorial Day. The question is he going to speak at a separate venue and further humiliate you and humiliate our town? Or is he going to speak where he should speak, along with the other speaker? I'm certainly not asking you to disinvite somebody else. I am asking that you do the right thing. There can't be a question of what the right thing is at this point in time. I have to believe that you don't need 10,000 signatures, that you don't need hundreds more of us to speak, and that you certainly do not need an alternative Memorial Day honoring of our veterans. So I ask you with all due respect to use this as an opportunity to have another vote, to re-invite Mr. Castle, and to restore some cohesiveness in our town. Thank you.
Carol Shaw, Teaneck. When I read this report in the Suburbanite, I said, this can't be happening here. This is a free country. We all have the right and the obligation to speak how we feel, what we believe in. Only a fascist state does this. This is not a fascist state. We are not a country where people who disagree with us don't have the right to say that. If we go down this path, if you do not, because I think most of us here agree that it is not something that we want to see happen in this town. If you cannot see that this is bigger than you are, and bigger than a mistake that was made, an era of judgment. We all make mistakes. That happens. Owning up to our mistakes is what makes us human beings. And makes us able to look ourselves in the face and say, I've given this man an injustice. I need to change that. And I hope you do, very much. I know it doesn't go with the sentiment that's happening right now, but I've gone through a personal issue that I have written to Mr. Boynton about, the mayor and the deputy mayor. And I want you to take some understanding of what it means when it takes... I tried to get a handicapped accessible bathroom made for my husband. It took us over 3 months to get it approved by the building department. My husband has since passed away, and he took 4 showers in that bathroom. You have to change the policy. If somebody comes to you and says they have a handicapped member in their family and they need to make changes in their house, you need to make sure the building department doesn't sit on their focus.
My name is Nick Lenzo. I live at Cliffside Park in New Jersey. And I think there are a number of people throughout the county, the state, and at this point, the whole country that know about this situation. I'm going to go ahead with my little prepared talk, but I hope that the folks here who are speaking with reconciliation in their tone, like this last lady did, the conscience of the 4 of you who voted one way will be reached, and you'll come to your own heart and your mind and do the right thing. Just reverse this. You have the power to do that. Now, if you don't do that, you're going to bear some repercussions. I'm going to go ahead with what I've got written here so you understand just how strongly I feel and what I think about this. The revocation of Jason Castle's invitation to speak at Teaneck's Memorial Day event is an affront to all that is good and great about America. How ironic it is that on the occasion of the day we commemorate those who have served and died in the cause of guaranteeing the American people the right to speak, among other rights, that on this sacred occasion we have a petty tyrant taking it upon himself to stifle that right just because he has a subjective perception and or reaction that he doesn't like the speaker. Then, when informed of the decision after the fact, the mayor and most of the council gives retroactive approval. The mayor and council should have reversed the manager's action and sanctioned him. then issued apologies to Jason Castle and to the people whom you were elected to serve. Instead, you've chosen to dig in your heels and to double down on unethical, immoral, unintelligent, despicable, and arguably unconstitutional behavior in violation of Jason Castle's civil rights at most, and certainly in violation of common human decency at the very least. Shame on you! What should have been a tempest in a teapot and a minor embarrassment has now escalated into an issue that utterly transcends the relatively simple question of who gets to speak at Teaneck's Memorial Day commemoration. The town manager unilaterally took it upon himself to countermand an invitation issued by the duly appointed authority to perform that function. That authority was appointed by the mayor and council, not the town manager. The town manager's job should be to manage the day-to-day functional operations of the town of Teaneck, not to be the all-powerful political boss who gets to have the first and last word over who gets to speak at public events under the aegis of the town's governmental powers. The fact that the town manager was able to get some kind of approval from the mayor and a majority of the council after the fact does not excuse his wrongdoing in the first place. Not in the slightest. It just drags the rest of you, the four of you who voted with him, it drags the rest of you down to the dregs of his own culpability. What this governing body has done is a violation of the public trust and an affront to every citizen of Teaneck, and an insult to every American who cares about fairness and free speech, whether they're veterans or not. It is my hope that the people of this town rise up and organize themselves in massive numbers to stand up for justice by voting the four of you out of office at the next opportunity. You were elected to serve the people, not your own ambitions, power lusts, egos, and your careers. You were elected to serve the people of Teaneck, not the town manager. He is not your boss. Senator Loretta Weinberg's question, as related to the town manager in a recent official Oprah request, is the key element in getting to the bottom of this. And I quote, and she asks, what rule, ordinance, resolution, or section of the township charter allows the manager to overrule a council advisory board without consultation, without prior consultation, or a vote of the council before taking such an action? Now, in a note that she wrote to the town manager, where he responds to her request by saying, I choose not to discuss this at this time, he basically brushes her off. She says to him, need I remind you that it seems you made a decision which overruled the recommendation of the POAB without informing members of the council and without requesting a vote to do such an action before you did it. You have in the past and have again with this action undermined the council manager form of government under which we all live in Teaneck. Please do not dismiss me by stating that you choose to, quote, decline to discuss this matter any further, unquote. You are an employee of this township and are required to follow the laws. I have posed a simple question, and I assume your refusal to answer it means that you acted unilaterally in contravention to the rules governing our township. That's the end of my remarks. I beg you guys to use your conscience and to do the right thing. You've got a chance here to just reverse this, make it go away, minimize the damage. Thank you.
There's been an awful lot of anger. Lorraine Kaplan, Teaneck, New Jersey. There's been an awful lot of anger shown tonight, and I think these people realize it. I hope they do. I was sitting there listening to all of this and agreeing with most. Pardon?
Address the council, please.
Yes, I'm sorry. Excuse me. I apologize. Anyway, as I was sitting here, I was thinking about years in Teaneck My husband and I came 60 years ago to bring up our children I know you're tired, but please be patient with me too. To bring up our children in a township that was wonderful, that was united, that was just, that was even. And then I came, or we came, and they grew up, and I taught here for many years. And I taught the things that were spoken of tonight, and that I know that every single one of us believes in. And I just feel that all of a sudden, sitting here, I had no plan to speak, but we have to do something because the children will know. Their explanations will We have no choice. We either go forward as a community and the people acknowledge the fact that a mistake was made. And quite frankly, I don't know if this gentleman, who is our town manager, has to sit there and take all the abuse. I just, let's face it, a terrible mistake has been made. Who made it is no longer relevant. Is no longer, thank you, relevant. It's got to be righted. And our children have to know that this is a great community of people who can admit to making mistakes and changing them and coming out ahead. Thank you.
Right.
Well, I guess I'll advance to Teaneck. What? I'm going to make a couple of varied remarks, one of which is our tax dollars went into this microphone. And this microphone should be thrown out. We want good microphones in this council chambers. And is there some adjustment that could be made?
No, you got to know how you...
Okay, all this is not good. It's second-class quality. It's not first-class quality. And that's one of the things that's happened under your administration. A lot of things are second-class. The taxes are high-class, and the services are not that great. What Mr. Shaw said, unacceptable. A man is dying in his home, and our building department could get around. I mean, 3 months sounded like a short time. I thought she was going to say 3 years. But he was dying. And that goes to this budget deal you talk about. Dollars equal services. Okay? Not always true. Deadwood. There might be Deadwood somewhere out of 350 people. Protected Deadwood, traditional Deadwood, people in the wrong departments, but they're needed, but they're tied in, they're locked in. There's places, there's another town nearby, 5 miles away. It's called New York City. They have police too. They dropped the amount of police they have by 6,000. Streets are still safe in New York City. They closed fire stations. People were scared. They have a right to be scared. Okay? But so far, I've heard no articles that there were extra deaths because they closed some fire stations. We have on the menu, on the budget, $1 million for one fire vehicle. But we don't have, and the manager gave us a point. It's so great, it's so cheap. Can we build this first-class, high-service town doesn't have that garage to further service its trucks. Why don't you put that in the budget? That's needed. That will save money the year it's built. We don't need to expand the town hall because productivity, as Deputy Mayor Gus has said, productivity studies may show that we need less staff in some areas, more staff in others. Afraid to look? That's modern management. That's what they do all over the country. We don't go with what we had last year. We go with what we need. And that's what we need here. If they can cut back in other towns, you can cut back in Teaneck. And if you want to stick to your attitude, that's the same attitude I've heard for 25 years. The dollars equal the services. Nuh-uh, I don't believe it. I don't believe it, and you know better yourselves. Now, for Mr. Brown has 1,000 different things to do. And I think if you had it to do over again, he would not have rejected, disinvited Mr. Castle. He probably has to look in the mirror every morning and think about that. Mr. Brown is a career police officer. He's used to taking control of situations, because that's what he was trained to do. And he served the town of Teaneck, okay? But it's your role to control the manager. And what other people have said, I'll second. It doesn't look like you're controlling the manager. It looks like you're afraid of the manager. And that's not the good way. That's not how this type of government is meant to be done. Why is the manager sitting up there where only elected people are supposed to be? Maybe he got used to it. Maybe he had the same authority you had as elected people. But he doesn't. He needs to be seated where the other staff is seated. We, the voters, we put you up there. We didn't put the manager up there. He's out of line. You let him be out of line. That means you're out of line. Right now, you need to change, you need to overrule the manager.
No,
Okay, Norm. Okay.
For 100 years old.
Please, there's somebody who's going to speak. Thank you.
Good evening, Council. Gloria Wilson, Teaneck, New Jersey. I don't even know where to begin, because some time back I came before the council and I said how embarrassed I was on the way the council members, some of you, conduct yourselves when you listen to people, and how you sit and how you compose your bodies. And it seemed to have gotten better at some point to me, that people were being listened to, and they weren't. I'm noticing again, but I'm going to take myself to a different route with this. Number one, we live in Teaneck, New Jersey, which is America. We have a right to have freedom of speech. We have a right to discuss any issues that we have. And a couple of things that have been bothering me every time I come to a council meeting and something comes up, especially if it's involving Teaneck 2020, I'm always hearing Mrs. Toffler's name mentioned, and I resent it. She has a right. She's an American. She has a right with the freedom of speech, such as Jason Castle, to discuss any issue that is publicly brought. I have a right as an American. I know at one point in time, Mayor didn't like the fact that she mentioned third world country. Well, I'm going to mention third world country. And you may not like me. I have family that come from third world country, and they did not have rights and freedom to speak. This is America. So issues that need to be brought need to be listened to. If it leaves here with the resentment because I'm saying it, I will continue to say it. This is America. This is not a third world country. We do not live behind a grilled or a country where we have to be afraid to speak. Jason Castle has a right to come up here and discuss anything that he feels is not pertaining to what he feels is wrong. He has a right to join any committee that he wants, be part of anything. I have a right to do those same things. And everybody in this room has a right to do this. The other thing that is very embarrassing and bothers me a lot, and I have to say it personal. If I'm wrong, I'll ask the man up above to forgive me. But, Mr. Broughton, I know you as William. I really hope in my heart that you have not become the scapegoat to the council members here. Because I really, in my heart, do not believe that you made the decision on your own, even though it was voted on. In my heart, I don't believe it. The other hurting part is, it's a brother against a brother that has served this country, that is willing to get up and speak. He didn't ask to speak. He didn't ask to speak on his own. He was asked by patriotic committee. That's another reason why people don't want to join any of the committees around here. Because why join if you cannot make a decision yourself? Why join? I asked before, what do you have to do when you join on any of the committees? I was very interested in getting involved. I'm always involved. I'm not a person that's a glory seeker, so no one has to come to me and ask for a plaque or award. I've been serving my community for 39 years, doing social work, assisting families, homeless families. I work hand in hand with Ms. Parker on a daily basis. I sat at Barnes & Noble's with you just last week. My little nephew was being honored because he wrote something on his teacher. And you stood there, and I like the words that you said, Mayor. You said it was an honor to have a little young man from Teaneck write something about that. You were proud of Teaneck. You have a young man that's part of the youth group that's sitting up there now, listening and seeing what's going on. This is what Teaneck's become. We're moving backwards. And you're also splitting this town. It's almost, people don't want to say it, but it's becoming a racial issue. It doesn't need to go any further. The last but least, I think that the council members that voted against this publicly need to tonight give Jason Castle an apology.
Howard Rose, Teaneck resident. Two topics. The first one is a relatively quick one. I want to thank the council for showing at this point a little bit of flexibility regarding what is known as the derelict shack at Bell Avenue and Route 4. An unused, not needed, costly to rehabilitate waste of a grant. A grant is not free money, a grant is tax money. It's just coming from more sources than just Teaneck. It would be good if you could use it elsewhere. It would be almost as good if you tell the donor of the money, county I guess, thank you, but use it in a better place. By the way, that facility is 1,344 square feet, a little bit bigger than 2 average living rooms, but the configuration of a T with several rooms and really not usable for anything, even if you invest, I believe, several rooms, but certainly a configuration of a T, and barely usable for anything if it were expensively rehabilitated and be given a wonderful bathroom. On the other topic, regarding Jason Castle, it grieves me to speak to you about this, and I did 2 weeks ago when I found out about it. I know you can do better. And my concern right now is that when the town manager indicated that he did this on his own, I'll wait. Thank you. When the town manager indicated that he did this on his own, that there was a statement by Councilman Katz that, well, it's not about Jason. It sure is. It's about process. Now, following up on that, the council voted to authorize or reaffirm the decision. We now have a situation where Mr. Castle's integrity is impugned, he's humiliated, he's downgraded, he's, as he said, slapped in the face. A lot of people have gotten up and asked the council to look at this situation and do something about it. I think we need a different tact taken. I would hope that Mr. Broughton has absorbed a lot of information in the last few weeks, has reconsidered the situation, and that he will help avoid the necessity of the council taking any action on this by he himself taking action on it and making a statement, which is, may not have been or was not the best decision, and I'd like to reopen a discussion on this so that we can see how to make this good. Because that's the only alternative we really have. We don't want to continue something that is not good. This is Teaneck. We all, most of us, enjoy living here. We have a lot of things that are good, some things that are bad, but some of the bad things we can actually control. It's within reach. It's actually within reach this evening. And I beseech you, Mr. Broughton, to say that it's been an unfortunate but educational experience, and here's what we can do. And failing that, I beseech the council to say there's a problem here that we can resolve to the satisfaction of doing good, of doing the right thing. Thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Pleasance?
Scott Pleasance, Teaneck. I just wanted to check with Nico. Are you okay with the time, or do you need to go? You good? I just want to make a statement to the public in general. Monday, May 27th, 10 o'clock a.m. on the Municipal Green, there will be a Memorial Day ceremony. I'm also a member of the Patriotic Observance Advisory Board and an Air Force veteran. As a veteran, you really have an opportunity to speak in public and tell your story and have other people appreciate the sentiments and the experiences that you've gone through. And anytime someone gives you that opportunity to speak, you kind of something inside of you, as other veterans know, something goes off, and you almost feel like you have an obligation to tell your story. So politics aside, I just wanted to say that there will be a ceremony, a Memorial Day ceremony. There will be a fantastic ceremony. Myself, along with the other members of the board, will represent Teaneck the way it should be represented. And I encourage people to come out. If you haven't come out to our ceremonies, come on out. Whether it's the voices of the Marines or the Army or the Air Force or the Navy or whomever, your words will come out. They'll come out through me, because I'll be there. They'll come out through John, because he'll be there. And we'll pay homage to our fallen veterans. So once again, May 27th, Municipal Green, Teaneck will be having a Memorial Day ceremony, and I encourage everybody to come out and show their support. Thank you.
Hi, council members, and good evening. I'm Stephen Goldstein. I live at 585 Standish Road here in Teaneck. I am the founder of Gardens to Equality. It is the state's largest civil rights organization. Like many people who moved to Teaneck, I came here not just to buy a piece of property. I came here to buy a piece of history. I moved to Teaneck not just because it is one of the most beautiful towns or municipalities in the country. I moved to Teaneck not just because, frankly, it has the greatest group of some 40,000 people I've ever met in my life. I moved to Teaneck because of what it has represented for decades. I moved to Teaneck because in 1965, this became the first city in the country to voluntarily integrate. That's what I wanted to be a part of. And I moved to Teaneck because I knew it would be the place where in 2007, then Deputy Mayor Lizette Parker performed the first same-sex legal ceremony in New Jersey in the office of State Senator Loretta Weinberg. Thank you, Lizette, for marrying me and Daniel. And thank you, Loretta, my second mom, for fitting about, 200 people in your office on Cedar Lane. That's the Teaneck I wanted to be a part of. Now, I confess I owe an apology. So here I am, a civil rights leader. And do you know this is the first time I've ever been to a Teaneck Municipal Council meeting? Gosh, what I have missed. I'll tell you, I have to confess, here's why tonight is my first municipal council meeting. Because in my work as a civil rights leader, I've been to hundreds of city council meetings across the state. Hundreds, you can't believe it. And this town was only my last priority in the 9 years I've lived here to come to a city council meeting for one reason. Because I've read about these meetings with pride, and frankly, I thought my own town didn't need somebody like me coming here, truly. I figured this was progressive Teaneck. This was an amazing place. After all, it's the town of Loretta Weinberg. She's got it under control. Never would any town do anything so stupid as to disinvite a war veteran, so I don't have to go to my town in Teaneck. I can go all over the state. I guess that changed tonight. I guess that changed. When you make a decision to uninvite Jason Castle, you are bulldozing the dignity of each one of us here. Because this town that prides itself on a history of diversity must understand this. There cannot be diversity of people without diversity of opinion. You can't just give lip service to providing diversity through seats at the table when you deprive diversity through voice. They go hand in hand. You see, I was so proud of my mayor and my deputy mayor. When you became mayor, there's a word in Yiddish, Mohammed Eichfeld, and that means I was so proud. And Adam, same here. You can't believe the pride I felt. I saw it on the CBS Evening News. I saw the two of you. I burst with pride. That's something that's going to be remembered for generations, long past whatever you do. But something now is going to be remembered for even generations further. Right. Because you guys will no longer be remembered as the team who made history in a good way. No matter what you do, you will now be remembered as the team who made history in a terrible way. How can you live with yourselves like that? You gave us such pride, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Deputy Mayor, council members. I can't tell you the pride that you people have given me through your diversity. Don't smash that. Don't steamroll it. Please give us our history back. Mr. Mayor, we moved here not just for a piece of property. We moved here for a piece of history. Please restore it. Thank you.
Teaneck. I'm here tonight to speak as a spouse of a disabled veteran, who, by the way, is a member of the Patriotic Advisory Board. I somehow encouraged him to get involved. Now I'm wondering if that was a mistake. And to you, Jason, I apologize, not for what they did as a spouse of a veteran, because I know what you've gone through. And I thank you for your service to our country. And to those of you who made that terrible mistake, you're going to have to live with it. Jason and all of the other veterans in here will always be veterans. But you are elected and you can become former council members. Thank you.
Teaneck, I don't think I have anything to add to many of the opinions that have been expressed here. But I would like to urge Councilwoman Lizette Parker to reintroduce a resolution. I would like to see the council vote again.
Right.
Kelly, 35th Shepherd Avenue. Changing the subject. I would like to address, we can't get out of Shepherd Avenue onto Teaneck Road because the traffic backs up from Tryon all the way back. And I would like to see you paint the lines, where no blocking the exit. Because the next street, Washington Avenue, is one way going in. So it wouldn't serve the purpose of making Shepherd Avenue one way. But, you have signs up that says do not block the intersection, but they're fading. Some of them are not there, they're not found, they need to be replaced. I appreciate you all can take care of that. Now, the other issue, I'm a Vietnam era veteran, and I feel very sad to hear this commotion going on about veterans being denied to speak. Now, I was sent 10,000 miles away to kill for this country, kill people who didn't do anything for me. Okay? And that's very disrespectful. I work for the Federal Justice Department. I don't like the disrespectfulness that you gave Senator Weinberg. The ripple effect from the White House to the outhouse is going to be negative for New Jersey. So I'm recommending that if you can't change your mind, that you all turn in your resignation tonight.
Show of hands, how many more people would like to speak? Keep your hands up for a second.
Gwen Akeley, Teaneck. It's never easy coming here to speak on occasions like this. It's never easy for anyone, I don't think. But this is one of those occasions where anyone that can speak should, because this is an occasion that warrants it. There's an old saying that to err is human, to forgive is divine. And we can
we word that by saying to correct a mistake is divine. It can be divine. I stand here and I think about Mr. McGilchrist. Mr. McGilchrist is my neighbor, and he has been my neighbor for more than 30 years, I'm sure. And I know Mr. McGilchrist, or should I say Colonel, has been an honorable man. Honorable, that's hard to say. He's been an honorable man, and I know he's served his country. I have two brothers that served during the I haven't heard the Korean War mentioned, but I had two brothers in service during that time, and one was a Marine, and one was in the Army, and they often fought about which service was the best. But, you know, in the end, you know, they always came together with the salute and whatever they use. I don't know, but I do remember learning the Army song and the Marine song. And at what time did we stop respecting the veterans? I can remember during the time of war, I mean, maybe you guys are too young to remember. You had to stand when a veteran walked into a room. Yes. You had to give a veteran your seat. At a train station, bus station, it didn't matter. The veteran got the seat. So I think because the draft is over, maybe that is what has happened. You don't realize the importance of service. You know, I think you have to do it to be in it, to know it. Maybe that's what it is. But we cannot do this to our servicemen. These men give their lives for us, all of us. And we have to respect that. So as I said, you can make mistakes. We all make mistakes. I make them. I know I do. You make them. And I think this was a mistake. I really, truly think it wasn't thought through. You know, I'm willing to give anybody the benefit of the doubt. That wasn't thought through, and it needs to be thought through thoroughly, because this was truly a mistake. Let's give our servicemen the respect they deserve. They deserve it. If you had to enlist and have to serve in a foreign country, away from home, bullets going over your head, you don't know whether you're coming back alive or dead, to listen to Jason's, what he did in service, one of his duties was to bury the dead at Arlington. That can't be a happy occasion. And as far as Mr. McGilchrist is concerned, I think there was a certain amount, and I know Mr. McGilchrist probably don't want me to say this, but I think there was a certain amount of disrespect to him. Yeah. Because he had, it is no different than any other organization. Veterans have a certain camaraderie that's among each other. And for him to have to do that, I'm sure it wasn't easy. So, I mean, you know, a lot of people have been hurt. It's a hurtful thing. And I want to assure you that it's not easy for me to stand here and have to say these things. It really isn't. And I'm sure it's been hard for a lot of other people to have to stand here. And I don't think we should. So please, rethink it. If you made a mistake, which I think you did, I'm almost sure you did.
Assalamu alaikum. Muhammad Dawood. First moved to Teaneck back in 1972. First moved to Teaneck back in 1972.
Stand back and open.
Stand back.
Back.
First came to Teaneck back in 1972. Class in Teaneck High School, 1976. I do remember the last time we had a situation like this, more than 35 years ago, Memorial Day, when you had on one side veterans who was against the war. They had opinions. It was a political situation. And then you had people who said, okay, let's keep it non-political. Let's be realistic. It is politics. This is a political war. Let's wake up and smell the roses. But one thing you don't do, I mean, I myself is a Muslim. I'm really kind of shocked anyway to be here and just be addressing this kind of issue. My father told me never to join the service, simply because of Korea and of Vietnam. He never said a soldier to fight for lives. No. No, we don't. My father made me promise never to get involved in the military of my own country. Basically because of the politics. We have good soldiers, but you know what? There's an old saying, I think it's from Africa. When hyenas lead lions, you got a bad problem. You got a bad problem. You got bad politicians. You're leading us to battle. Wait a minute. We won every battle that we lost every war. The last 50 years. Politicians don't respect soldiers. Here's a man here I disagree with, and there's another man here I disagree with what they're fighting for. I couldn't pleasure them. Now as a Muslim, even this Muslim here knows. Why?
Please don't attribute your view.
I'm so sorry. Please don't interrupt my attribute. I have my fighters given my right. Thank you. Now, basically, you guys in the council disrespected your own soldier.
They do?
I and this soldier, other soldiers, we may disagree. But at least he was willing to give an oath and serve and put his life on the line for something he believes in. But then when he comes up to speak on a Memorial Day, well, we don't like what he says, maybe his opinion, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you're willing to send him and send him thousands of miles away to risk his life to fight for a lot, then why can't you have him stand right over there, 500 feet, and speak, let him speak for his own self about that war, or what anything. He has a right to give his own opinion. That comes down to the bottom line. 3 years ago, I was locked up in a foreign country. I studied at Damascus University in Syria. I was the director of an English school teaching English to Arabs in Syria. And the secret police, Mukhabarat, came and arrested me for who I was as an American. And I spent days inside, dungeons inside Syria, in Damascus. I understand what the person meant. They don't have rights overseas. I was one of the few Americans overseas to be teaching over there, to study Islam overseas. Not only in Syria, but Saudi Arabia and Morocco. It's an outright disgrace. It's really an outright disgrace. You got men going overseas to fight, put their life on the line, but when they come home, keep your mouth shut, huh? Give me a break. Look, I'm from the old school. My father made me pledge on the hand of the Bible never to get involved in the military. You don't fight for lies, he told me. He's dead now in the grave, but I'm going to tell you, I could have been dead in the grave with him.
fighting for lives. You politicians, I don't know. That's where we got in trouble. Sad to say. You politicians, I wish you was just as good as the men you sent overseas to serve and fight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Schwartz, Teaneck. I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I got so angry hearing some of the stuff I heard tonight, and Adam's laughing because, you know, that's really not like me not to get up and speak. But a couple of things tonight got me angry, and I'm getting too old to be this angry. One, where does an employee of the Township of Teaneck respond to a reasonable request by a citizen of Teaneck for information about Teaneck by saying to that person, I choose not to speak to you about this issue? Any citizen of Teaneck has a right to approach the manager and ask for information. Where does the manager get off saying, I refuse to speak to you? Let alone one of the most respected citizens in the Township of Teaneck, a former councilwoman, a former assemblywoman, a state senator, a Senate Majority Leader of the state Senate, and a former candidate for Lieutenant Governor of the state of New Jersey. If she gets treated that way, with such disrespect by the town manager, that's a problem that I think has to be addressed by this council. It should be addressed as soon as possible. Now, I didn't serve in Vietnam. I got into the National Guard, and I didn't have to serve. But this guy, Jason Castle, appears to me, he served in a war zone and put his life up to protect the rest of us and to do what his government asked him to do. I don't know how many of you have served in war zones or served in the military, but I didn't. And I would not have the nerve to look in the face of Jason Castle and say to him, you cannot speak at a Memorial Day service for me. I don't know how you guys got the nerve to do that yourself. Sometimes you make a mistake as a politician. I was here one night when Jason Castle was here speaking. We were here to ask you to sign a resolution about the gun control measures before the State Senate, and you did. And that was a fine thing you did, and I congratulate you for it. I was here when Jason Castle got up and spoke. And maybe I disagreed with some of the things that Jason Castle said. Maybe I thought he was a little intemperate, especially when he got into this whole Tea Party stuff. People got angry at him for saying those kind of things. Maybe he was intemperate. Maybe he went above the line a little bit. But so what?
Right.
So what? That's what you guys signed on for when you got elected to this council. You knew when you got elected to this council that you were going to hear a lot of things that you didn't like to hear from this audience. You guys have been involved in some campaigns. I know that. I've been involved in some campaigns with you, where you had some pretty rough and tumble things to say about other people, which might have been construed as going over the line. But you're still up here. You're still exercising your rights of free speech, and I don't criticize you for even engaging in rough and tumble political discourse, because that's the very nature of our democracy. So I'm asking you tonight to grow up as public servants. So what if someone comes up and says things you don't like? Live with it. Deal with it. That's your job. Another way of growing up as a public servant, in my view, is to admit when you made a mistake. Boy, you made a royal mistake. If your intention was to stop Jason Castle from speaking, you failed. Because Jason Castle was going to speak on Memorial Day, and he's going to speak to a larger group of people than he ever would have spoke of in front of if this hadn't happened. And his name is known now all over the state when that wouldn't have happened before. And you've embarrassed this town when you shouldn't have done it. There is simply no reason that I've heard expressed tonight why you can't grow up, admit your mistake, and rectify the wrong that you did. I ask that you do that tonight.
Dr. Rashid, first of all, I would like to say that unfortunately it's not a kind Unfortunately, it's not a kind of aberration, because I see from attending this council meetings for years now, that the council members, after they are elected, they assume that they are elected not to serve but to rule. So it's a junta rule. Nobody who is against junta is allowed to talk, allowed to be appointed, and so on and so forth. I'm sure I'm blacklisted too. So the thing is, I supported Muhammad, I supported Aaron when they talked reasonable things about containing the budget. And it looked they made promises and they didn't keep it. So now coming to the Jason Castle issue. It's not just Jason Castle issue. It is insensitivity in the township, which is conglomerate of different ethnic and religious groups, to one of those groups at least, or to two, or to more. First of all, the black community came to defend its member who honorably and qualifiedly served on the planning board. It was rejected, neglected. This offense, this disrespect to this group. Second thing in a row, again, the member of a black community, Jason Castle, is disinvited. So the thing is, it's not racism. It is just absolute lack of sensitivity, which is necessary in this town. Absolutely. So that's for black community. Now, yes, veterans are insulted. But that's not religious or ethnic group. Yes, veterans are insulted. Another thing is, I do not know whether Muhammad thought about it. Yes, I supported him. He's Muslim, fine. But did he think what kind of service he gave to his community? He is a Muslim, blacklisted American military fighting in a Muslim country for his American homeland. You understand what is that, or you don't understand what you do? If you don't understand, if you don't have sensitivity to govern the township with different ethnic and religious groups, resign, because you cannot do that. As for the rest of the council, which supported this decision, again, you are in a multi-ethnic group town. Okay, any decision which infringes on dignity of those groups disqualify you of sitting here making any rules, any decisions, and especially Mr. Broughton, well, just the absolutely unthinkable thing. But just, I know I came here, I wanted to use the outlet to put the device I demonstrated. No, it's not yours, it's mine. Okay? So the thing is, I see it all the time. Bosses. They are bosses over us. No, you are here to serve us, and if you can, please resign en masse.
At this time, our member Nico from the Youth Advisory Board will be leaving. Thank you for coming down and shouting.
Property owner in Teaneck, as well as the president of the Bergen County NAACP. With that being said, I think the community itself has spoken, and it leaves me but so many words to be said. Never served in the military, but I am patriotic. I look at the flag, and I do think of those veterans who served there before me. And I say I thank you for that, Mr. Castle, and all the veterans in the room. All I can say, let's figure out how we can heal this, how we can correct this. I don't live in Teaneck, but I frequent Teaneck. I think Teaneck is a wonderful community. And how are we going to keep it going? I know each one of you individuals up there, excuse me, I know the qualifications that you have, but I do realize I've made mistakes before. I do have a eraser on my pencil, and I sit there and make the corrections and move forward. So I plead with you, reconsider Mr. Castle and allow him to speak before the Memorial Day session. Thank you.
Hi, Chuck Powers, Teaneck. I want to make sure that you, the entire council knows that you are invited to a community meeting on Monday at the Ethical Culture Society. Should you as the council fail to reverse your decision and re-invite Mr. Castle, the community is going to get together at Ethical Culture at 7:30 next Monday of the evening to try to figure out what it is that we ought to do next. Second, I do want to point out that the one person who's not actually had a chance to tell us where he is on this question is Mr. Stern. He was not here last time, and I make a specific request to him, since very often we don't know actually what he thinks. He seems to move less clearly and less publicly than many of the other council members. I want to know if he stands on this question, and I specifically ask for him, though if in fact we do not find out tonight, we leave here not knowing, and I think many of us will have a right to make a decision as to what your positions. As to the, I want to talk for a minute about criticism of this council. This council consistently approves, unbelievably, no-bid contracts for major personal services agreements. It did for Mr. Gianfrancaro. And none of you were there today. I was there. I watched the bid process today. I know precisely how badly flawed what it was that your no-bid contractor had done in putting out the second piece of the required bid that you were supposed to. In fact, there was actually a difference of more than 500% between the low bid and the bid of other members, because they had absolutely no idea and could not have, by virtue of reading those specs for that document. You continue not to seek a process by which you can choose competent professional services agreements through a competitive process. And if people stand up here and criticize your incompetence, the incompetence of your administration proposing it, and the incompetence of this administration, in fact, choosing it that way, it is not surprising, folks, that there will be criticism of what you do. And now we find out that to be a critic is to be disallowed the possibility of bringing who you are, which none of you are, who you are, to your Memorial Day service. Incredible. I am absolutely outraged. I think the township is outraged. Congress, you folks made a commitment to uphold the United States Constitution. That's part of what you said. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Grievances are real, folks. You are functioning incompetently. Anybody who comes before you and doesn't point out that incompetence, and the processes by which you get to it, fails to understand why it is that any person with any competence themselves as a resident is going to bring very tough criticism against the way in which you proceed. It is time for you to recognize that being critical of you is in defense of the rights and the welfare of this entire community. Thank you.
Nikki Chelan, Teaneck. 2 weeks ago, I went to Savannah, Georgia for a week, and even though it's a beautiful city, everybody there has a gun in their home, and they're still fighting the Civil War. So I couldn't wait to get home to my town of Teaneck. I came home, and I saw what was happening to James and Castle, and I couldn't believe it. And I just want to remind Mr. Broughton, if you remember 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, we were having trouble at the senior center where the people from the recreation department kept firing all our directors.
for whatever reason, they just kept firing and firing how upset we were. And then they fired a woman called Mary Beth Flynn, all because she helped some woman who poured hot coffee on her herself, and Mary Beth Flynn went and got her a new pair of slacks, and she was fired. And of course, everybody there got very upset, and we made a petition, and we came to the council and said, you know, what is going on? That you keep firing people, and when I went to ask why, the recreation department woman said she was too caring and compassionate.
Oh!
Yeah, and I said, oh, I guess with seniors you shouldn't be caring and compassionate. But anyway, about 50 seniors showed up at the next council meeting. And before the meeting started, you got up and said Mary Beth Flynn was never fired, but she will be reinstated on Monday. I haven't figured that one out yet, but it shows that you can reverse a decision when it's wrong. That decision was wrong, and this decision is wrong. Please reverse your decision. Thank you.
Changed their minds before.
How many more people do we want would like to speak? 1, 2, 3 in the back. 4. Anyone else? Is there anybody else? Okay, if you're 4 people, can just line up, and then we're going to close good and welfare after that. Anybody?
Jim Madison, Teaneck resident, over 25 years. And I'm having a very hard time trying to put my head around this whole thing. And everyone here has spoken so eloquently about the situation. In my profession, I advocate for Teaneck. I promote Teaneck as that shining house or that bright house on the hill. But lately, I'm beginning to doubt myself whether it is that bright house that everyone wants to come to. You know, we talk about Mr. Castle as a veteran. I'm a veteran. But we never said anything about he is a man, first. And as a man, he has feelings. And I think that what has happened and what has transpired with the council has worked on him psychologically, and that's wrong. As a veteran, you have to realize that if you never put on a uniform to go to fight for what he is doing, his freedom of speech, then you don't know what it is. He has fought, and we have fought, for the simple reason to be able to have freedom of speech. We go to foreign countries and try to tell them, teach them about democracy. Yeah. We do that. But yet we can't do democracy in our own country.
Amen.
That's not right. So, if any of you who are on the council have not been in the military, you don't know what it's like. Amen. You know, it's easy to send someone else out to do the work, and you sit back. I mean, someone said the other day that, you know, they didn't fight in the military, they found a way out by either going to college or taking a position in the National Guards. But when you put in a uniform, you do what you have to, whether you like it or not, without question. So it is okay to make a mistake. We all make mistakes. That's why they have erasers. That's why they have whiteouts. If I disagreed with my wife and she said to me, "You have to leave," am I going to get up and leave? I don't think so. I will try to make it right. By trying to make it right, you do what your conscience says, what the right thing is about. I think that the council has done an injustice to Mr. Castor. Not only to him, but all the veterans, because Memorial Day is not a partisan affair. But also, what you have done, you have put another black mark on Teaneck. Teaneck, as it is under the microscope for everything. If a dog walks across the lawn and urinates, Teaneck gets is called for it. So we have to be very conscious of what we do. So the council, you have made a mistake, and as everyone said, you can become grown-ups by correcting the mistake.
Right.
Clara Williams. I wasn't going to speak like so many other people, but I feel compelled to say something to you. But I actually want to bring up 2 points. I want to make I would like the record to reflect that the Teaneck Board of Education did not ask the Township of Teaneck for any considerations as related to Votee Park. So any of the bells and whistles that have been added had nothing to do with a request from anyone on the Board of Education. Now, my second point is I am here to speak on Jason Castle. I am the daughter of a World War II veteran who served his country very proudly. I'm also on the school board, and I've been in a situation that Councilman Stern and Councilman Ellie Katz brought a group of people to the board and wanted us to reconsider a decision that we had made. And we took their input into consideration, and we changed our mind. And I think the school board has the intelligence and wherewithal to understand that sometimes you've got to change what you've come up with. You have made a mistake. It's a shameful act that you guys have done. And I don't believe that William Browden is solely responsible for it because you've validated it.
Yes, exactly.
And I think that you really should put forth a resolution.
Do it now.
You can stop all of this, put forth a resolution, it's easily done, and re-invite Jason Castle and take away that insult that you've given to veterans of this country and to the residents of Teaneck. And I want to speak about that whole thing about, because I don't think that this situation is really just related to Jason. I think that it's systemic of what's been going on lately in Teaneck. Again, the gentleman raised the issue about the composition of the planning board, composition of the advisory board. It does no longer reflect the citizens of Teaneck. And you are not making any effort. You talk this diversity stuff, but you really don't back it up. Special interest groups are served, and that's it. When you're elected, and you're elected by, some of you are elected by a majority of people who feel that you will serve their interests, and you don't. And I hope that people that are viewing this and people that are going to read the newspaper start to really examine what's going on in Teaneck, because my family's been here for 50 years, and I'm telling you that we're delusional if we think that diversity is moving forward at the same pace that it did in 1964. And I want to suggest, I'm reading a book right now by Dr. Martin Luther King called Where Do We Go From Here, Community or Chaos or Community. And I would advise all of you to take a look at that book, because there are some fundamental, basic concepts that you can learn about getting along, being in a diverse community, and what it really takes, and not just to talk the talk. Thank you.
Theodora Lacey. I apologize for my did want to speak because I thought it was important. Being a resident in this town for over 50 years, I've seen lots of changes. I was not here in 1949 when we were cited as a model U.S. town, but I read about it. I was here during the 60s when we integrated the school, and I can tell you that some of those nights were reminiscent of tonight. I used to say sometimes it was better to go to the Board of Education meetings during those years than a Broadway show, because it was very interesting and exciting. But we were open, and things were transparent. We all spoke our true feelings. People were given the opportunity to express their side of the integration issue. And it was quite divisive during times, but we were able to come together. I have since had the opportunity to receive many letters, Mr. Mayor, when you were elected. We were so very proud of that. Teaneck has been the headline for so many wonderful things. You have the opportunity now to be in the headlines again for righting a wrong. And it is wrong what you have done. Again, it has been said over and over again that we all make mistakes. It is not in making the mistake of the falling down, but it is the getting up and standing up for what you know is right.
Amen.
A few days ago, I had the opportunity to go down to the Senate to hear the hearing on guns, and happened to be seated in a group of people that were pro-gun. And while we were waiting for the session to start, there was lots of talk, and of course I felt very uncomfortable. But sitting next to me and my friend was a young man who happened to have been a very young college student. I think he had just graduated from college. And he noticed the bag that my friend had. And there was a picture of an artist on that bag. And they began to talk about this great person and the museum and all of the wonderful things that related to this art experience. As soon as the session began, we knew, of course, that he was pro-gun. And as soon as the session began, he began to say things that was very upsetting to us. Mostly when the person that we revered a lot, Senator Weinberg, would get up, they would say terrible things. But we sat there and we listened. And do you know that as while we were sitting there and listening to that, I was reminded of the same young man who we had so much in common when we were talking about the museum and the art, so that somehow he was supposed to speak, but he didn't get a chance to. We really wanted to hear him speak, not because we agreed and that we thought we would agree with what he said. We knew that we wouldn't agree, but we wanted to hear it. You must become that way. You must want to hear all sides of issues,
Amen.
regardless to what they are. I grew up in a very segregated system. Many of you know that. One of the started segregations in my state, the governor, as a matter of fact, stood at the university doors and said, segregation now, segregation forever. I want you to know that I had the opportunity some years later to be on the same stage with him, and I shook his hand. We have to learn to live together. We have to learn to know that people come from different places, and you have to learn to move from that place, to change when you have new information. You made the decision about Mr. Castle. If you really knew Mr. Castle, you would be so ashamed of that decision. Every mother that I know, if they know Mr. Castle, would love to have him as their son. Not the speaker, but to have that human being, that person, as their son. He is a wonderful American. Please use this opportunity to make headlines again. You can do it, and I have faith that you will. Thank you.
Spears, longtime resident of Teaneck, nearly 50 years. I'm also a veteran. Been a veteran for a good 30 years now. I stood here, I've listened to a lot of people speak, veterans and non-veterans. The thing that struck me last night when I was in a meeting, I was talking to Lou here. We served about 40 years apart. And we had the exact same feeling in regards to this. It's an insult. I feel like I've been slapped in the face with a cold hand. This is an insult to all veterans, period. You've thrown a rock into a pond, these ripples stretch across the country and around the world. There's veterans scattered all across this country and around the world. We all will react to this the same way, and we're all connected by internet and everything else.
It's going to be on YouTube.
You have no idea the nonsense that you started with this. You really don't. Somebody made a comment earlier about your legacy. This is going to be your legacy if you don't correct this. He touched on the oath of office that we take when we enlist. I've taken that oath several times. So it tells you I've been active duty longer than most of these veterans that are in this room. That hurts. To think that we would go put our lives at risk to defend the Constitution, which the First Amendment guarantees this man the right of freedom of speech. And for you to spit in the face of that is atrocious. That's all I have to say.
Daniel Rosenblum, Teaneck resident. A lot of people have said some very eloquent things, calling on the council and manager to reverse their decision to disinvite Mr. Castle as the Memorial Day speaker. I just want to join with what everybody has said about that. I prepared some remarks, so let me cut to the chase. As far as I'm concerned, the actions of this council are nothing more than the actions of petty, tin-horn dictators or people who aspire to be petty, tin-horn dictators and brook no disagreement. Mr. Castle has not espoused views that would put him beyond the pale of American values. He hasn't said all men and women are not created equal. He hasn't said that we don't have our rights to justice, liberty, etc., all of those ideals that are supposed to make us Americans. What he has said is that he disagrees with some things that the council has done. Well, you know, what you guys have done, and I say you guys, pardon me for being a little disrespectful, because I know that one person who's not a guy up here has not agreed with that action. Neither is Dr. Pruitt, who I guess is not here this evening. Is you have lost my train of thought. Sorry. You have, as I say, you've acted like tin pot dictators. You have created an environment not in which you've deprived Mr. Castle of his freedom of speech. He can speak anywhere. But you've created an environment that chills our right, and Mr. Castle has pointed this out time and time again, that chills our right to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Because of this kind of petty, infantile, bullying behavior, and that's what it is, comes out of the council and manager. It is a disgrace to this town. It makes me not at all proud to say I'm from Teaneck when people say, oh, that's where your council disinvited that veteran. Well, as everyone else has said, you now have an opportunity to correct that, or you should. And I hope you take the opportunity to say, that was a silly mistake, undo it, re-invite him. Thank you.
I thought it was 4 more speakers. Yeah, he already.
Other
people say.
No, Mr. Hennig spoke during one of the hearings on the budget. He has not spoken at Good and Welfare. Of people
No, but
welfare.
the
And my hand
mayor
was up
said that
before.
there would be 4 more speakers. Mr. Rosenblum was before. Other people sat
At this point, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, but at this point, the entire crux of this meeting is about allowing people to speak. Should we shut Mr. Hennig down?
No, I think maybe you should invite the people who sat down to stand as the chair of the meeting.
Can I just make a comment? We just had a student leave the dais, and I just wanted to take a moment to thank him for spending his evening here. I think that he got a true picture. Unfortunately, it was his desire, as I whispered to him, for him to hear the other side, hear our response, and he had to leave. But I wanted to just thank him for being here this evening. And now, why are they objecting to
Mike Hennig, Teaneck. My hand was up before. Past commander of the Teaneck Veterans of Foreign Wars. I'm vice commander of the American Legion. I'm a combat Vietnam veteran, served with the 4th Infantry and the 82nd Airborne. And I welcome home to my fellow Vietnam vets. I'd like to start, and some things I might say tonight might not be well received. But I do want to thank the town manager, William Broughton, for what he did. The first thing he did when he came to town, and he followed in Helene Hill's footsteps, if you may remember, the first thing he did is cleaned up the memorial. Cut all the bushes down, cut all the hedges down, and made it something that I'm pretty proud of. And I thank you for that. I know a lot of people in this room. I know that this may have started as a process problem with the council and the board. It's become a political problem. And I'll tell you right now, I'm standing here now because I've spoke at Memorial Day service. I've seen too many of them become political. And for me, Memorial Day is about veterans and dead veterans and people who have defended this country and your freedoms. I've been in political elections. I was elected 3 times to the Board of Ed. I was defeated in the council election. I was on committees with all these people, most of these people. So, and it's interesting that when I came home from Vietnam, maybe some of these people were on the other side of the line throwing tomatoes and vegetables out because they thought I was hungry when I came home. In a protesting the Vietnam War. We as Vietnam veterans have turned that around to say, you may not like the war, but don't kill the messenger. Never again will one group of veterans abandon another.
I know.
I'd like to make sure that Memorial Day stays Memorial Day. And I wish in all my whole heart that every time I've been there, I saw any of you there. There was nobody there. I could have counted 20 people at the last time for Memorial Day. I'm speaking, it's my opinion. You may not disagree. There was many more people in this room than there were out there in the auditorium. I'm just saying, what's fair is fair. You think what's fair? I think it's fair that we all pay tribute to the memorial and to the veterans, period.
Thank you. Welfare is now closed. Council's going to be taking a 5-minute recess, and then we'll get back to the dais. So we'll be right back to here.
Rhonda.